we are going through a transformation as humans. We are cyborgs, right? We are one with our machines now.
The moment a new thing comes out that solves every creative problem, creative people are going to look at that and go, but what if?
How can you use these tools to empower yourself and use it to really advance yourself?
What's your process for putting an event together that works as well as Artist in the Machine?
Just putting the artists on stage and letting them show us the crazy things they've built. Let's stop talking about it. Let's start showing what is really happening, because every day in this industry, crazy things are unlocked. What do they need to see to walk away from this day with some concrete, tangible takeaways they can bring into their practice, their work, and with the inspiration where something has clicked for them. Oh shit, I didn't know that was possible, and now it is.
Okay, great. Well, listen, so Dani Van De Sande, thank you so much for being on this. I'm so excited because you are the founder and CEO of what I think is the best event for where creativity and technology meet, Artist in the Machine. I want to say a lot of things about the event and what a great job I think you've done. But I'd like to start by, first thanking you for being on the podcast, but second, just ask you about Artist in the Machine and what you think makes it so special.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And it was incredible
Pleasure.
having you there, and can't think of someone who should be in the room as much as you should. What makes me think it's so special? That was the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The concept came to me very organically, and it was really just driven by this like gut feeling that I needed to get artists and creatives together with technologists in a room to really look at this paradigm shift that we're seeing with AI through this creative first lens. And I think this energy, in a nutshell, this energy of having artists who are unafraid to be bold, to really experiment with the latest tools, no matter how controversial that might be, with the engineers and the researchers and the cross-disciplinary, players like brand leaders and entertainment studio executives, like all of these different disciplines in one room, really paving the future of where creativity and technology meet, I think is what makes the room so special.
Yeah. To be honest, in that case, you nailed it, because that was going to be almost verbatim what I, think about the event. Is so many of these events devolve into prognosticating futurism, where people are like, well, in 5 years, this is what you're going to see. And everybody's very confident when we've seen so much change just in the last, in any 6-month period with this tech, the changes are so monumental. And, I defy anyone who's not, a leader of one of the big tech companies or the AI owners that has a sense of where this is going. And so I love that A, it stays away from that, and B, it's practical understanding from both creatives and creative organizations. I think that is very rare as well. A lot of these just become a sort of a mess of, fear meets confident storytelling and futurism, but I think it's really nailed that. And I really enjoy it for that perspective.
Thank you. No, so appreciate that. And I think one way that we try to do this is just putting the artists on stage and letting them show us the crazy things they've built, right? In their basement in the past month. It's like, let's stop talking about it. Let's start showing what is really happening, because every day in this industry, crazy things are unlocked. And the opportunity to gather in real life, because we're all kind of going through this crazy journey on our own to some extent behind our screens, to really gather in real life and play and explore this is so important now, I think.
Yeah, because I think that like the balance of what you had there as well is you had people like, the representative from Adobe talking about how they train and how safely they train and what Firefly is doing and how it's going to be integrated into their programs. And that's incredibly useful for creative organizations. But then you had somebody like Grimes, who I have to admit, I didn't really know a lot about prior to her being there. But I was really impressed, A, by your choice of bringing her on, and B, by the thoughtfulness that she comes at as an artist to these tools. And just to give a tiny bit of background on that, she had a web series or a series of episodes where she was making music videos and she was building using these tools in real time. And what I found fascinating was, as an artist, there were times where she'd look at something and go, great, that's great. We've used all these background extras that are digital or whatever else. And then she came in the next morning and went, I don't know how I feel about that. Like I was noodling it overnight, and I am an artist and I do pay for my music videos and I pay the talent. I just took a job away from someone and I don't like it because they're an artist too. And that willingness to be wrong, that willingness to wrestle with the problem in real time, and as well, she's so unbelievably articulate. I just thought that was, having a balance of those two things, businesses that are undeniably changing the game and looking forward, and then an artist laying herself bare and saying very clearly where she's drawing the line in real time. Because she's basically going to bed going, the line's here, and then waking up in the morning going, no, I think the line's actually further back here.
It couldn't be more true. And I think also having those, like allowing for that friction to exist, right? Because we are going through a paradigm shift and we're trying to establish the boundaries with the technology and with our human agency, and her ability to be so raw and vulnerable in her journey is like, I think it really speaks to people because we're all going through that. And I can't speak for artists. Like I'm not, I have my own creative outlets, but as an artist, I can only imagine, right? But for everybody, what we're going through of like, this is really exciting, but shit, this is really scary. It's like this roller coaster. So we just need more of that in-person, raw, vulnerable, we're all in it together kind of conversation.
Yeah, she was very surprising. I mean, I only really knew her as the archetype of what she was, and had very little understanding of her. And I've really I was very impressed by the event. It's funny because I think that, I'm sure you encounter this. Tech companies have to have a mission and go at it, with blinders on. And as well, so many of us who have started companies, you with Artists in the Machine, me with Kubrick and Kubrick Labs, we're having to project so much confidence all the time because there is a lack of assurance, and we're very open and honest about what we don't know or what's emerging. Yeah. But I think that watching someone be vulnerable and be open about what they are wrestling with and actually where they're not confident, that's the confidence I'm most interested in. I don't know if you feel that way.
Yes,
but the confidence of saying, I don't know, and I'm figuring it out, but come along with me for the journey.
Absolutely. No, I think because no one really knows, to your earlier point, right?
Yeah.
We've been waiting for certain things to happen. We don't know, are there going to be X amount of robots in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? Is, the headset ever going to hit? What's actually going to happen? We don't know. And so I think... Yeah.
Is Google Glass finally going to work?
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, world models are out. Are all my friends who were waiting for Vision Pro and then little happened, now they're like, now is our moment, Yeah. But I think it really comes back to this idea of gets really into it, but we are going through a transformation as humans. Like we are cyborgs, right? We are one with our machines now, and that's rapidly exponentially increasing, and it's changing who we are and what it means to be human. And so if anyone, that is so real, like that everyone is dealing with that right now. And so we need to have those conversations and be real about it. We try to encourage also as much as we can as we build trust in the ecosystem on stage and on our stages. We want also like the big enterprises to be vulnerable wherever we can. Of course, there's PR teams and things, but we try to create an environment where we can have these conversations freely.
Yeah. It's definitely the most human first event that I've seen. And it seems, do you do that on purpose? Do you plan for that vulnerability, or is that just a byproduct of making sure you have enough creatives on stage and creatives talking, and then actually emotion just naturally becomes a byproduct of that,
Yeah, I think it's a number of things. We have a no asshole policy in our events, and there's just this sort of community feel. It's a more intimate event. Everyone there is generally knows someone, right? So it's pretty well curated. And there's sort of a level of trust because of that. But I think there's like a self-selection in that too, because anyone who's bold enough to be doing this stuff and open enough to explore it, there is this feeling of like we're kind of helping to create this new paradigm shift, and we're seeing these things unfold and we're contributing to them unfolding. So there's sort of this like kinship in the room. Like the person at the major studio that's responsible for introducing innovation into the organization is a fascinating, in my opinion. It's like, you got to be a little out there, right? So we're all a little out there and a little crazy. And so there's this kinship,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I first became aware of you at the Warner Brothers Accelerator because it seemed like you had a great grasp of how tech is actually being used inside big creative organizations, which is different than just creativity at large. If you talk about an artist or you talk about a creator, they're engaging with this technology in one way. And then you have creative businesses that I always describe them as, it's like building a house on a foundation of quicksand. That if your job is to reliably make money from a piece of creativity, whether it be a book or a piece of media or whatever else, that's an incredibly dangerous and I think admirable thing to do. But you seem to have a very good grasp of how these sorts of creative tools and creatives can work within those organizations. Is that from your background? And your background is from venture and you worked at Snap. Did you gain it there, or did you develop it over the course of, the time you've founded Artists in the Machine?
Yeah, I had an innovation agency, and this kind of led me to starting Artists in the Machine, because I've always been someone who I try to build bridges. And I think that's so important right now, right? Like the part of what inspired the beginning of Artist Machine was I felt that a lot of the conversation was very fear-oriented. It was very much about the technology. The narrative at the time, early 2023, was OpenAI is going to take everyone's jobs. Like it's doomsday. The human race is going to shit because of AI.
Right.
But when you start to get all these different folks in a room, right, and you are able to have a conversation with, the head of innovation at Shiseido and ex-artist, Beeple, and the founder of 11 Labs, for example, you really start to understand how important the whole ecosystem is, right?
Yeah.
It's important to put artists in the room with those who are driving the strategy, the licensing deals around these things. And I think I've just been naturally a bridge builder in that regard. And I had an innovation agency where I was working closely with a number of these heads of innovation at big brands, helping them leverage emerging technology and play with emerging technology to engage consumers in different ways, to introduce more creativity into their organizations. So it was through that. I would say.
Well, that's great. I mean, listen, I think it's, I think that on some level, creativity is going through massive upheaval, especially industrial creativity, but at the same time, I think it's safe a little bit. Whatever new thing, the moment a new thing comes out that solves every creative problem, creative people are going to look at that and go, but what if, and that's the whole creative act, is looking beyond the horizon and trying to do something new. And it's that alchemy that I think will sort of be safe. I mean, I think that, if you own a widget factory or you have something that is very repeatable, I worry about your job or your business or your industry. The creative industries, I think, are going to be sort of fine. There's never been more people creating more media on the planet out of their houses than there is today. And the same thing will be true tomorrow. We'll just keep creating more and more. Among the community, do you still feel the same fear? I imagine because you've created this wonderful environment, you have an event, multiple events in New York and LA. You've got these, you're sort of bi-coastal, and you've created around you this group of people who seem to be very willing to work with change. Is that insulating you from some of the fear, or are you still seeing the same degrees of fear amongst, the people you're engaging with?
Yeah, I think we all go through the yin and yang, even being in the, it's being in the industry. It's one day I'm like, this is going to be incredible for humans, right? This is going to be, and then there's like the dark side of it, which is the reality is that like entire structures are going to be overhauled, and economics and, new opportunities are going to emerge, and ones that exist now will go away. And with that, people are going to lose jobs and things are going to get restructured, and we don't know what the future looks like. Like no one can say what's going to happen. And, and we've had a lot of conversations also around like just anyway, I won't go there, but AGI and like the alien intelligence within the models. And there's this whole other thread. So we don't really know what's going to happen. But I think the spirit that we're trying to capture and spread is, at least today, with what's available to you and and with your kind of immediate needs and opportunities, like how can you use these tools to empower yourself and feel and use it to really advance yourself? And if that's about unlocking greater creativity or making certain things more efficient so that you can spend more time on that, like that is all we can really speak for and do right now. And I think that's the spirit of like, we're all in this together. We don't know where the hell this is going, but let's be inspired around this. Let's come from this. Let's come towards this from an empowered and inspired place. But it's very important. Like we're an echo chamber to some extent. Like my community is an echo chamber. The people, right? It's important to understand what's going on. Like when artists are still afraid to talk about what tools they're using. Like this is still, there's a lot of negativity around this, and people are afraid. Rightfully so. So we're a bubble. And I think the more we can introduce diversity, we're an echo chamber, sorry, but the more we can introduce this diversity of thought, opinion, perspective in the mix, I think the better.
Do you think that there's a difference between LA and New York? I mean, you've had you've developed really great communities in both places. Is there a difference in the conversation in that echo chamber between the two places?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, as one might expect, LA being so media and entertainment focused, I think what we saw is this past year, there was a lot of conversation and development and technology developed around the visual, as new video models, now world models being developed, right? A lot around kind of the visual medium, and being in LA in November of 2025, when all these crazy things are happening, right? The announcements are being made, Disney working with OpenAI, the Academy of Motion Picture starting to acknowledge that AI is part of some of the awards. Like there's a lot happening, and to be in the kind of original bed of media and entertainment and creativity and to have those conversations is extremely timely. So in LA, naturally, there's a lot, I mean, media and entertainment, right? It's like the entire film industry. But music, I would say, now we're in Grammy Week right now. There's a lot happening now with regards to music, and we're seeing that start to really pick up. So I think this year, if you think about LA, music will be there'll be a lot happening.
Right.
There's a lot of announcements just happened with NVIDIA, UMG. So in LA, really rooted in media and entertainment. And then in New York, there's still that, but there's the broadcasters, old media companies, and then there's the brand, fashion, beauty, luxury, Madison Avenue, ad agencies. So there's a little bit more of that, I would say. Whereas LA,
New York's not a one industry town the way LA is.
No. So
yeah, that's interesting because it's funny because I feel like weirdly that you've got this kind of top and tail thing happening where I see a lot of entertainment companies in LA. I mean, one client who I won't mention, we've been bidding a job with them to build a system for them for about 2.5 years. And, it's just, we're always getting closer to sign off. But weirdly, they're doing quite well as a media company. They are, they're not, and as well, then what happens is a little bit of time passes and it gets a little bit cheaper, or a model improves and they go, actually, this thing that we were going to sign off, 2 years ago. And the thing I say to them, well, yes, but you've lost 2 years of experience playing with it and understanding it. Because weirdly, the old broadcasters like in New York and the creators, they're jumping on this stuff and they're becoming so experienced in how to use it in their workflows. And the broadcasters are doing it just because they really are on their knees. And it's sort of the media companies that are doing quite well, but not as well as 5 years ago, that are doing this stop-start approach avoidance thing. That's sort of what I'm seeing, is that the people who are desperate are using it and the people who are excited are using it. And then there's this huge group in between who are like, we don't know. I mean, should we not? We don't, no. Is that similar to what you're seeing?
Yes. And I think it's important to roll up your sleeves, even if you don't consider yourself a builder, a creative, an engineer.
Yeah.
Build some, it's playing around with Cloud Code this past week, as many people are now, like creating an agent. You don't have to be an engineer, but it is a whole other way of thinking. Like, you need to, there's a lot of like process involved in that. There's a way you need to communicate. You need to train it. So it is a paradigm shift and a whole other model and framework in which to work and structure things. And to your point, it's not about using this specific model or this specific tool wrapper. Like, it's a whole new paradigm shift and way of thinking and interacting with technology. So yeah, absolutely. It's like the sooner you can roll up your sleeves and you can become an expert real fast.
Yeah. 100%.
But you got to start playing, because otherwise you will be left behind.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I tell everybody. Like, if you're wondering how to get in, have a play, figure out something you want to do and just muck around, because, you're going to learn the most out of that. So just getting into the actual event itself and how you go about it, I don't want to ask you to give up your special sauce, but you've undeniably created an incredibly great community around, the things that you're tackling. Take me through your sort of how you put the event together. Like, what's your speaker selection rubric? How do you make sure that you're balancing the needs of creators versus the needs of organizations? How do you, with an event as varied editorially as what you put together, how do you go in? What do you start with? What's your process for putting an event together that works as well as Artist in the Machine?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I would say at a high level, because the industry changes so fast, it's almost a full-time job just to keep up with everything that's happening. We kind of go through this process where about 3 to 4 months before the event. So right now we're just in that sweet spot. We're 3.5 months before New York. I can't believe it. We become this, like, we're like, all right, tell us everything, right? We're talking to everyone. We're just like, all right, we're immersing ourselves. What the hell is going on right now? It's New York, May 2026. What's going on, right? Like, what's shifting? And looking at that from a few different levels, we're going to release a bit of our programming framework for this next season shortly in the next week or so. But some of the things we're looking at are, the tectonic shifts driven by the big industry players, also like more of the bottoms up shifts. So what are the artists doing? What are the builders doing? What models are they resonating with? What new tools are out there? What are the unlocks? What are some of the, like last year, I feel like we're talking a lot about LLMs. Now we're looking towards world models and spatial intelligence. So we're kind of just like ingesting. That feed
into robotics and things like that. Yeah.
Totally. Like, we're going to have a robotics component as well.
Wow.
So we're ingesting all this information, and then we're trying our best to distill for our audience, what do they need to see to walk away from this day, with some concrete, tangible takeaways they can bring into their practice, their work, and with the inspiration where something has clicked for them. Oh shit, I didn't know that it was possible. Now it is, right? And now I can think about things and see things differently. So yeah, it's kind of, it's a bit of madness, but we try to ingest everything and then kind of distill it into the very timely things that are happening in that moment in that city. in that
Yeah,
ecosystem.
because we had Cara Cusimano on, who's the festival director of Tribeca Film Festival, and she explained the months leading in, like a detective looking at one of those conspiracy boards with the red
Oh my
twine,
God.
going to different things and looking at it, and
Yeah.
looking and feeling a bit nuts. I imagine
It's
it's kind of the
nuts.
same thing for you. I mean, especially
Nuts.
because everything's changing up until, there can be announcements that OpenAI has launched some new thing, or Gemini's come out with like the day of the event that, changes the paradigm potentially.
Totally. One way is always like, I'm always keeping tabs on, okay, who is always doing the most interesting, unlocking the new format, like first to try the new tool, like who are those people? And then I'm trying to track them, and I know they're going to be doing something interesting, because you can't control a lot of the things that are happening,
Right.
flying by the seat of our pants here.
Yeah. I mean, how do is there an editorial choice that you make amongst, because the last event, the LA summit, there were so many different stages and areas and breakout workshops and things like that. How do you decide editorially, like does the main stage have one continuous thrust, or are you trying to have the main stage tackle as many different things as possible? That's for people who want to generally understand, and then other stages have specific editorial points of view. Like, how do you program what goes where within, an event like that?
Yeah, the main stage is really about inspiration, walking away like inspired, and also kind of the big announcements. It's about that, right? It's about inspiration, big announcements, big moments. Whereas the machine stage, which will be, it's more of this kind of hands-on workshops, roll up your sleeves and build things. And I think that caters to two interests. So it's like, are you someone who really learns best by just listening and ingesting a bunch of information and seeing what other people are doing, or do you actually want to like get into the nitty-gritty and build something? And so we try to cater around that. And there's a lot of other threads within that, and we're still developing a lot of that framework. And some of it I also can't share yet. There's kind of a purpose to each stage, one being more about the hands-on experience and one being more about the inspiration, the thought leadership and big announcements.
Yeah.
And then, there's key areas, and kind of there's an overall thesis in which we go into each summit of like, here's where the action's happening, here's where we're going to focus, because this is what it matters today in AI, right? And creativity.
You kind of very often, I've heard you talk about how creatives and technologists, one of the biggest, problems that we face right now is that creatives and technologists are still kind of talking past each other quite a lot. And there's still a disconnect there, and that each one of them needs to be learning from each other a lot more. It was funny. Well, I spoke to Sergio Lopez, who's the CEO of Omnicom Production, and he was like, yeah, like we could make a full AI ad now. The question is, when the Wright brothers, flew for the first time, that was the first time a pilot had ever been needed or learned anything.
Right.
So there's a degree to which, the technology is there, and right now, very early on, sometimes only the technologists know how to do it well. So how do you create an environment where the technologists and the creatives can be learning from each other and bridging the gaps towards each other more?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the merging of those, right? So it's like, I think the creative technologist is such an incredible role to sit in and to define yourself in this shift, because everything is merging with technology. And if you can maximize your creativity and have the discipline and the at least a little bit of excitement around getting, building things and interacting with the technology and not being afraid of it, I think you're in a prime position. And so a lot of it is also just kind of closing that gap. And we see that with a lot of tools that help, like vibe coding. Like one of the big highlights of our summit was one of our partners, Lovable. They really wanted to play in our ecosystem by like seeing what artists would unlock by vibe coding, because everyone thinks about founders or like more of an engineering type vibe coding. It's actually what do artists do with that, and how do we demystify building something for some of these multidisciplinary artists who aren't, as native and digital native, and empower them to build something they couldn't build before. So I think it's about closing that gap, and we're going to see that gap close more and more. And I think this plays back into how can we inspire and empower people rather than make them feel alienated, but from and by the technology, but rather feel like it's their friend, and that it's not that hard. Like anyone can do this. Yeah.
It's funny because my experience of it is I've seen a lot of technologists, every time there's a new release of anything, they get really excited. And every time there's a new release, creatives tend to tense up or pull back. And that it's the harder thing is getting creatives to bridge the gap than it is technologists. They're usually very excited to become more creative. Whereas the creatives like their pencils or their typewriter or their, whatever it is that makes them feel the most good when they're creating. They don't want to disrupt that because, inspiration management or emotional management that can lead to inspiration is such a huge part of the creative process, There's an old Calvin and Hobbes cartoon where Hobbes is asking Calvin, "Oh, when are you going to do this thing?" He's like, "Well, I'm just waiting for the inspiration to strike." And Hobbes goes, "Oh yeah, what kind of inspiration?" And Calvin goes, "Last minute panic."
Oh my God.
And that to me seems like, so much of the creative process all kind of whittled down to one thing.
Totally.
But yeah, you've created an environment that the creatives seem to be so comfortable in. I mean, most of these events, I see a lot of business people and a lot of technologists. I don't see a lot of creatives, but you've really managed to bridge that gap. How do you think that you talk to creatives differently about this than others, who do what you do or trying to create the communities you're trying to create, but are just, that they're failing because they're not able to attract the creatives in the same way you are?
Yeah, I think it's just putting the most bold and well-respected artists and creatives on stage. That's it. And respecting that and putting people on stage who are not just talking the talk, but are walking the walk. Because I think there's a lot of like talking heads, and you go to these big conferences and it's ex-executive and we still have those folks on our stage. Like that's really important. It's really important to understand what these big companies like a Mattel, are doing in this space and their point of view on it. And because they're going to drive tectonic shift, but they should be on stage with the artists and with the bottoms up creatives who are really the most bold in chartering uncharted territory, venturing into uncharted territory. So I think that's a lot of it. And I think to your earlier point, it's also like, I think we kind of psych ourselves out a lot. Like, oh, AI, what is it? What is this thing? I can't touch, but it's just, it's another tool. It's like, what is this solving for me today? Right? Like, that's what it is right now. It's what is it solving for me today? It's another tool. It's not this crazy, I think we conceptualize a lot. We psych ourselves out. It's like, it's a lot of things. Like AI is in a lot of places, right? It's like, it's not just this nebulous like thing.
You spoke earlier about how, everybody originally was very scared of OpenAI because it was coming for every business and actually that was its mission statement. It was like, we want to be able to do anything a human can do, which is another way of saying we're coming for your job, we're coming for your life, we're coming for your everything, And so there's kind of that perspective is that, that it was avowedly coming for everything. But I think that creatives naturally, it seems to me in some of the demos that I've seen on your stages that each creative workflow is so different. There are so many tools that I'm not looking at one single solution that answers everything. And I guess you've talked a lot about the power dynamics of, okay, we're all creating down here, but really we're all just feeding into these big umbrella tech companies, and the illusion of choice we have between them. But like, Google and Anthropic and OpenAI and whatever else, eventually they're going to be all offering AWS, or are going to be offering very much the same things. Is it going to become, a singular solution for everything? Is there going to be a GarageBand moment or or do creatives naturally have a resistance to that? Do they have an inbuilt defense against that because they're creative? They're going to do things differently, and they're always going to want something so specific that there is always going to be a application layer that inspires a lot of different ways of doing things and different styles of work.
Yeah, I definitely think like niche solutions, right? You could say, well, why does something like, why does Lovable, I mean to bring it up again, but there's so much traction there. Like Lovable exists when you have Notebook LM or Claude Code. Like these are all similar tools, but like they each cater to their own niche that resonates with that. Like the aesthetic and the design of an experience in Lovable is going to resonate with someone in a way that Claude Code won't. So I think we're going to see lots of, just lots of variations of this, but I do believe, and again, we have no idea what's going to happen, but like I do think a lot of these companies are going to get acquired and swiped up and fold into, bigger tech companies. And I think a lot of the small studios are going to get acquired by big studios. And I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation. But I think there's so much opportunity and room for like niche market products. And because also you don't have to raise money anymore to build these things, you're going to have X amazing animator building a tool, right? That's happening already. Like, building a tool for their own crew and community,
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of been noodling on this theme that actually UI and UX has become the new most important thing, because if everybody's plugging into the same APIs on the back end, your subject matter expertise, being able to show that you can create a really sticky thing for whatever industry you're trying to make it for, and that people who have that subject matter expertise go, yes, this is the ththing I've always been wanting. Yeah.
Yes. It's like them being part of creating that, like I think, for example, like a Flora, that's an incredible tool they're really creating that with the artist designer in mind. They're building it with them. And so, I think I agree. Yeah, totally. It speaks to these different audiences and niches.
Are people still bringing you their fears, whether it's companies like, let's say, a Mattel, or companies that have been making creative work for a really long time, and creators? I mean, are they still coming to you with a fair amount of fear in their heart?
Everyone's afraid, I think. But yeah, no, it's an interesting question. I mean, it's the ups and downs, right? And it's the Grimes talk, I think, encapsulates that so well. It's like she's so psyched and she's always the first, but she's up at night thinking about the implications of this and what her role is in it, and where she should draw the line. And so I think we're all going through this, and also it's just a lot to keep up with. Like I can't even imagine being an independent artist or creator today, and all the things you have to juggle, right? Like social media presence, like your creative workflows, new tools being introduced every week. It's a lot. So absolutely. And I think the more we can have those types of conversations on stage, like in our New York summit last year, one of my favorite conversations was with Vince Cadlebuck, who's the founder of Meow Wolf, which is, if listeners don't know, it's an just look up Meow Wolf. First of all, the name is so cool, but it's basically this, it was this collective of artists that just started like physically making like crazy artistic spaces that have been now compared to like, they're like big art playgrounds compared to like the next Disney, but like through experiential art. And in that realm, it's all about the craft, right? And so someone like Vince comes up on stage and he's not super keen on AI and using AI, right? And so his perspective is there might be a few like small things we can solve for there, but generally we're leaning into craft more. And so I think having those different perspectives at a table and valuing, right? It's almost like the more AI becomes useful, the more craft becomes valuable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, actually. And I think that, and as well, I think that, somebody said something like, we have a real craft problem at the moment. And I disagree with that. I watched somebody clean a rug for 15 minutes on TikTok the other day. It really calmed my brain. And I watched another guy, mow a lawn or take over. Some old lady had let her lawn get overgrown and some guy came in and he did her lawn. These people are craftsmen doing what they do. They're just getting better at showing people what the craft looks like. And weirdly, I think that like the old distribution models of a film, everybody embargoes their craft until the film is out. The film comes out, everybody sees it, and then they'll have like a making of documentary or something like that. And then I actually think that the entertainment company should be flipping it more and let me see the production designer building the sets for Superman or creating the costumes for Superman prior to the movie. Let them share their craft. I mean, I think wouldn't it be fantastic if somebody went to go see Superman because they loved the production designer's content and they loved what they were doing, and they went to the movie not for David Cornsweet, not because it's Superman, because they love the production designer. I should come to this story with the name of the production designer so I can G them up. But I think that we don't have a craft problem. We have the old distribution models and the old media companies have a craft withholding problem. They don't let us see those craftsmen. They like us to think that it's all just, James Gunn or the director, it came out of the director's mind perfectly. And they don't sort of allow the craftspeople to shine. And I think that's kind of a shame. I think that, yeah, you're right. Like the focus on craft could kind of be the savior of everything.
Yeah. I mean, and I think those are, the artists that I look up to, like Paige Piskin or, she's just an incredible creator in the space, or like just any of the, like Rafiq Anadol, that like the way that they string these tools together and train their own models on their own work. And there's this other artist, Pindar Van Armen, who we had at one of our earlier events, who's like basically training a robot to become his hand. Like, and that is craft. Like that is not easy. Yeah. That is not pressing a button and something gets generated. This is complex. Like there is craft to that. And that's where like that the human craft still exists. Like, it's not good if there isn't that craftsmanship and individual taste and nuance in how the thing gets made. And I think showing that process is very interesting, at least to us nerds. Like maybe not everyone, but 100%. We try to do that on our stages. Like it's interesting. And then not enough people show that, and it demystifies it too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that gets into something else I wanted to talk about. I mean, what gets you most excited? Like when because obviously people are just putting forward to you things that they want to include in the event. What's your editorial high bar, and where do you go, holy shit? Like, what do you get most excited about when you see and you go, I have to have this at our event and it's going to inspire so many people?
I think it's people who've like created something that couldn't exist before, or something that was created that couldn't exist before. So for example, this is kind of an interesting example, but the micro dramas, like that, whatever you want to say about that medium didn't exist right before some of these like AI and some of these technologies specifically existed, right? So it's like how, rather than just trying to take things from the previous paradigm and then recreate them, like a film is not really a film anymore. It's completely different. Like the medium is shifting. So anything that's inventing something new, or that's a truly creative, like are we actually being creative, or are we just reinventing the wheel? Like who's really pushing this forward? And like when I'm experiencing something, is it making me feel something? That to me is great art. Like it's those same rules apply, but it's like who's able to like ingest and understand these new tools and like really understand and create like the new formats and do things that weren't possible before.
Yeah.
because that is inspiring and like unlocks more of that, right? So
Yeah, it's funny. It becomes more like performance art, doesn't it? I mean, and you sort of, I realize very often my biases where I'm like, oh, okay, is that going to make films better? Is that going to make social media quality better? Is that going to make short films better? Is that going to make art better? Is that going to make print campaigns better? And I'm still looking at through that previous lens. And you're right. It's those people who are putting together things that feel so unique. They're creating a new type of experience, and you're, it becomes more like performance art, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, or like Meow Wolf is like, okay, well, this was what the museum was, and this is what Disneyland or theme park is. Like, what if there's something completely like new? Like, what if rather than looking at art on a screen, we were in it, and what if it actually wasn't very commercial and it was just completely crazy and and out there and straight from an artist's like brain and vision. So, for example, like an AI film festival, to me, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
It's not film anymore. It's something,
Right.
we're inventing new mediums and ways of
Mhm.
telling stories that are completely different than before. I think naturally we like to relate to things that we know, but I almost like challenge people to kind of let go of that and think of almost like return to the abstract to like recreate, because it's a completely new unlock and they're new mediums that are coming out of this. So.
Yeah. I spoke to somebody named Omar Karim who used to be at Meta, and he's a creative technologist. And he is pulling off an art heist of the British Museum, where he realized that on the British Museum they have pictures of all of the things that the British Museum has stolen over the years from
Oh my
antiquity and whatever else. But it also had the dimensions of everything. So he was like, oh, okay, what if I scrape all of that, send all of that information to create CAD files of it, create 3D printing models, and then sort of give Greece back the ability to essentially 3D print all of the stuff that the British have stolen from Greece over the year, all of the Elgin marbles and everything from the Parthenon and all those sorts of things. And that's one of those examples of just a creative going at a problem, seeing what's available. And it didn't have necessarily a financial upside. He's just doing it because he can and going, this is interesting. This is a fascinating thing. And then you get into the discussion of, okay, you're basically data stealing something that eventually becomes physical. And then it reignites a conversation about, should the British Museum or be still holding on to all of these things that are essentially Greece's antiquities and, and just hanging on to them, that maybe shouldn't be happening. And so are you able to talk about like, what are the exciting things and people you've got cooking up for your next one coming up in New York? Can you give us a peek, even a thematic idea of some things that might be bubbling at the moment?
Definitely. I mean, it really, so one of the sessions that were very successful in our LA summit was Alien Inside the Machine, which was all about this conversation of like consciousness, AI alignment. That's a really controversial topic. We're doubling down on it. We've got some really interesting researchers and perspectives on that. So we're definitely digging into that, definitely digging into world models. The next kind of, Google announced today Project Genie. I think it was today or a couple days ago. There's a lot going on in spatial intelligence. The medium is going from video into 3D. That's pretty fucking crazy. So we'll be digging into that. We've got big shoes to fill with Grimes. We've got some really cool names, lining up, and we'll start to announce things in the next couple of weeks. So we're very excited. But, each event, it's like, all right, what is it? What's conversation in New York in spring of 2026? What's brewing, right? So every time it's so interesting because the world is completely different from 6 months ago, It's just moving at an exponential rate.
What do you think the conversation is now then? I mean, you're literally formulating that decision in real time. What is the biggest conversation? What's the hardest nut to crack? Like, what do you think about the state of everything right now?
Oh, it's hard to answer that in one go, but I would say a few threads are it's very interesting if you look at some of these big companies that are starting to announce and actually build things with some of the foundational models, right? So for example, the Disney OpenAI announcement, UMG and NVIDIA, right? There's a lot of things happening at the like legacy company level where they're saying, all right, we're doing stuff. We're here to play. And at the same time, they're suing, right, other models. So it's like, I think the legacy companies are starting to go out and do things. Whereas last year, like that's picking up because they're realizing, you know, even though it's controversial, they're playing and they're starting to build things in the space. So I think the tech talk, like looking at some of those announcements and what they are and seeing how like IP and licensing is unfolding in real time. And that whole thing is like, it's a living evolution, right? That's unfolding before our eyes and changing on a weekly basis. So we're definitely digging into that. We're trying to get under the hood with some of these organizations to understand what they're actually doing beneath the headline and the announcement. Okay, what does that mean? That OpenAI and Disney have a partnership. Like, what are we, right? So there's that. And then there's the artists like Paradox and Journey, which continues, like that Grimes talk was very much that. Now we continue that conversation and we expand the medium. So now we're digging more into spatial because world models are coming to light, right? And there's more, their artists are playing with that now. It's not just video, it's 3D. And then we're looking at like robotics, right? So it's like, what is robotics, like creative expressions in robotics look like? So as the technology shifts, you know, the applications with those mediums continue to evolve. And so we're always trying to find, like last year in New York, we didn't have a musical artist playing with robotics on stage. This year, I think we will. So it's just moving with the media, like the creative expression that evolves as the medium evolves.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, I'm very excited. I mean, I think it's going to be great. I would love to understand, you know, we talked before about creatives and technologists still talking past each other. I think that your event is one where they can both feel totally at home. I would like to ask just a dual part question, which is, what would you want a technologist to get most out of your event? And what would you want a creative to get most out of your event?
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, please, everyone who attended, tell me, what can we do better? What, right? Yeah. I don't want to speak for them, but I think you can walk away with the concrete unlocks and, you know, real-time things that are happening at the foundational model, at the technology level, inference level, model training level, right? So you can walk away because all those platforms are in the room, right? Our sponsors and our partners who show up are anyone from 11 Labs to Adobe to Luma AI to AWS, right? They're there and they're showing the latest things, right? Yeah. So you get to walk away with those tangible, like, new unlocks and features and skills from a technical standpoint, or you could lean more, and that's for creatives as well, because they're getting, you know, they're seeing the latest creative unlocks. So, and or for those who maybe are facing a little bit of writer's block or feeling overwhelmed or lacking inspiration, like come and be inspired, you know, look at what this artist did overnight. Right? That is now possible. So I think there's both the concrete, you know, Adobe being on our stage, being able to share a bunch of the things that just got released with us was so freaking cool. I was like, oh shit, Adobe's now, you know, with Foundry, they're building on top of all these models. That wasn't the case a month ago. So you get to get the tangible kind of, you know, technical updates. And if you just want creative inspiration and you just want to believe in humanity again, like maybe come to Artist Machine and just be inspired. Like, so
well, it's definitely that. It's definitely incredibly inspirational. I'm really excited for the next one. I have one more question that I'm trying to get back to asking everybody, and feel free to answer or not. But I used to have a boss named Dan Wyden, who was a legend in advertising. And he had this quote where he said, "You're useless to me unless you fucked up big at least twice."
Oh, I love it.
And so can you remember, and would you be willing to admit a time where you fucked up big and what you learned from it?
I love that so much. If you're not doing something that's polarizing, it doesn't really matter, right? So people are going to love it. If people love it or hate it, you're in a good place. If everyone's kind of neutral about it, not, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think for me, just in my journey as a founder, because I had a company before and I've always been obsessed with entrepreneurship and making something out of nothing. Focus in a time when there's so many shiny objects and things you can do and distractions. The whole world is trying to get our attention. To just do one thing really fucking well and like, sorry, my language, but
no, go for it. This is a swear possible zone.
Yeah, and like I think artist of the machine can mean so many things. It can be so many things, but for us, the thing that really matters right now is creating this moment, this day where everyone comes together in the industry and like shapes what happens next in it, and everyone in that room belongs there. And we just continue to refine that and make that the best it can be. That focus is a big learning because it's so easy to be distracted. So sometimes simplifying things in this crazy time is nice.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much for chatting with me. I so respect what you've done. I think it's so awesome. Can you tell me, when is the New York Summit? Like, let's plug this thing.
Yes, plug it. All right.
Get people to get some early bird tickets.
All right. Love it. May 14th in New York.
Yeah.
Can't wait. It's our second ever New York one, and we've got an amazing lineup. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I hope everyone, we can keep in touch and follow our journey and welcome any ideas and things that we can do to help our community in this space. So
absolutely. Well, you won't be getting rid of me easy. I can't wait for the next one. It's such a great event. What was great was this time it opened with this incredible AI face of you,
Oh God.
You're getting put together like a robot, which I think is going to be the thumbnail of this episode.
I love it.
It was so badass and really fun and irreverent. It wasn't overly serious or never devolved into boring or and certainly never devolved into being the same as anything else. I really loved it, and I hope people will go out and buy tickets immediately. Thank you, Dani. I really appreciate you giving me the time.
Appreciate you, and see you soon. And if not, see you in May in New York.
For sure you will. Thanks so much,
Appreciate
Dani.
it. Bye.